Right, so this is a case study of specifically targeted to the media content creation piece of the business, and it starts off with three guys walking to a bar. One of them is a post-production guru. One of them is a network backbone guy, and the other one is a expert in content delivery networks. And the problem we're trying to solve is something that myself, I was the post-production guy, but I'd also spent years in other verticals in the computer and networking industry, and had watched the progression of what happens to workflows as Moore's Law does strange things to CPUs and memory and disk. And one of the things I was observing was that, certainly we're moving away from being able to do everything on one workstation and occasionally transferring something over a local area network. And I've even seen in-house where sneakernet was the fastest way to go. But clearly there was a...
Speak up a little bit. In the back, there's a little air conditioning.
Oh, okay. Well, there's no PA. All right. Sure. All right. So as we started looking at, I started looking at that workflow. It looked to me like a natural progression that I'd seen before was happening, and is that clearly it was already happening at larger post houses. The content was being managed from a centralized server architecture, and there was a lot more interactivity from multiple editors working on the same products at the same time. And initially I had an idea of, okay, post 3.0 needs to really be concentrating on really aggressive server architecture internally. But what ended up happening is, through outsourcing of a lot of smaller projects, a lot of the talent wasn't even in-house anymore. A lot of that talent was in a small boutique shop or working out of their home or whatever. So the model then became, all right, we need to get this to a centrally located place, because the content owner doesn't want all of this stuff residing in a million different places. So the ubiquitous cloud became the natural extension of that. And having had experience as a group with content delivery, taking stuff from the cloud and delivering a lot of places, we thought we'd just flip that around and say, okay, how do we now work that the other way? And the most important thing for us was that we wanted the user to not have to deal with any of this. So we wanted a very simple desktop-looking web app that just looked like the file folders on your desk, and you could move your content back and forth, and you could preview it, and you could upload bulk, and but you didn't have to worry about being a network guru, because most of the people don't have support, or they're off by themselves, and that's not their area of specialty. So we looked at this is my model of the internet. Even going from New York to LA is not necessarily a straight pipe, right? Think of each of those disks up there as one of those major points of presence. Like here in New York, you have 32A of A, you have the Google building, and 60 Hudson Street are like the three main connection points, and that's where you have access to the big fat pipe. And it's easier to move stuff in that space, and then you have people that are connected through various, enterprise tends to be connected more directly, but we have a lot of people running on cable modems and worse. So on the one hand, you say, okay, I'm going to take that storage block that I had in my post house, and I'm just going to plunk it in this facility and call it the cloud. But that's really not what the cloud is all about. It's not really one specific location, because you're only going to get the benefits of the speed to the guys who can connect to it directly. So the challenge was to be able to quickly spin that out throughout, just like you do a content delivery network. We now needed to have a ingest network and storage available at locations that people could get to. The advantage we had then is that we could negotiate balance of public network and private network connectivity points, and we could manage our own backbone to eliminate a lot of those latency and congestion issues. And so we got from pop to pop was really fast. So then we had to look at the last mile, and that's the piece that I think everyone chokes on. Let me get my glasses on here. So from the IP transit, we were fine. We did a mix of, can spin up a mix of public or private. But what we found was most of the endpoints are under provisioned. So you'd be surprised. You go into a major post facility that's moving, doing full-length feature films, and they're sitting with a 100 megabit pipe or 50, and it's just not going to get anywhere. So we have to go in and sort of help them figure out that there's value in this. The challenge that I think you find is it's hard to convince finance people to sign up for a long-term contract for a lot of money when it's not a constant stream of activity. In other words, a lot of the content creators, they don't send high volumes constantly. They might do it at the end of the week, or a few times a day. So if you look at the money you're paying for a connection point on a per transfer basis, then the finance guy gets all woozy and doesn't want to go through with it. The other thing we're finding is that if you're a boutique house, then you don't want to pay for the fiber to be run in the facility because you don't know how long you're going to be there. A lot of the independent production companies are literally set up for the show, whether it's a movie or a TV show, and that whole legal entity shuts down at the end when everything is delivered. So they don't want to be hanging on for a 3-year connectivity contract, and if you sign up for a year, the prices are still pretty expensive. So we go through and we've tried to figure out ways to help people figure out, take their payload size, think of the structure. Are they doing a lot of small DPX images, or are they just taking one big show? Try to map out the end-to-end transit time. One of the things that people that have been using the cloud, the Media Cloud, have found helpful, which we hadn't. This is when your client finds a new way of using your product. We were thinking of it as storage. People were using it as an asymmetrical network transfer. So if you have someone in a small shop that has absolutely no connectivity, and they have to deliver to a major ad agency that has good connectivity, the last thing you want to do is embarrass yourself by hosing their whole network while you transfer at 10 megabits per second to people who are used to a gigabit. So what they do is they'll upload to us, and when they're done, they call the client and say, it's ready. And it comes right down. Because we have, we basically optimize the TCP stack so that we can get as much bandwidth. We can do 80% of the bandwidth that they have available, because we also want to play well with others. But we get 80% of that bandwidth, and therefore no one's the wiser. It also works the other way. If you're going to deliver something, deliver something back, you can, and you have the slow pipe, or you have the fast pipe, then you can just dump it up there and say, hey, when you're ready, go get it. So that's something that a lot of people have taken advantage of. And let's see. So I threw I had the slide actually for last mile and backbone, but sometimes I find a lot of times inside the facility, they don't have a good handle on what their bandwidth issues or needs really are. So I try to get the clients to think about their work unit. What is the work unit? Forget the megabytes and gigabytes for now. What's the work unit? Is it a show? Is it a segment? Is it a scene? And then size that independently, and then try to figure out what's the user threshold. What are they able to deal with in their day-to-day operations? How long can they wait? Sometimes they don't need rapid delivery. Sometimes they can let things go in the background and do what they're doing, and sometimes it's just got to be there. I mean, we've had cases where clients with no last mile had called us up, and we literally sent someone over, picked up a hard drive, drove to 60 Hudson Street, or took a train to 60 Hudson Street, plugged it right into the backbone and sent it. And in terms of dollars, it was still cheaper for them to do that than because it was a one-off, than to have to pay for the connectivity. So this was the 100-foot calculator, and then for the last mile, again, how many channels do you have going at any point in time? And I will tell a war story, but I won't name the vendor since we're being taped. But we were looking at various solutions, and I've used the Aspera at Postworks. We use it all the time. But there was a startup that was doing a really, really high bandwidth box, and we did a demo of a color correction session where the content was in London and the colorist was in LA. And they were able to do that in real time. That wasn't through the MediaCloud, but this isn't these two boxes. But pay attention to how you're using something like this. So they did another demo at a major West Coast studio and went into the main machine room to do a transfer from LA down to the SuperNAP, which is this huge, huge point of presence in Las Vegas. And it performed beautifully. It took the whole 10 gig and it took the entire facility down. Because not only was their email going over the internet, but they had voice over IP, so their entire telephone system shut down. The entire facility went so be forearmed and forewarned. So questions, I guess, open to the group.
I had